0.000 seconds. A handful of Celtic fishermen once built a small village on a muddy island in the middle of a river with nothing to their 0.077 seconds name but reed boats and a few coins earned from passing river traffic. Seconds centuries later, that same patch of mud would survive Viking axes at its gates, a guillotine soaked in royal blood in 0.2222 seconds its central square, and a direct order from Adolf Hitler to burn it to the ground before it could ever be liberated. Seconds. This is the entire story of how Paris became Paris from 250 BC to 1944. 4,141 seconds. Around 250 BC, a Celtic tribe known as the Parisiii settled on a small island in 4,848 seconds in the middle of the Seine River. A position chosen with real strategic intelligence rather than mere accident. The island offered natural defense on every side. 5,959 seconds. While the river itself was already a thriving artery of trade carrying goods, people, and rumors between distant 1,071 7 seconds regions of ancient Gaul. They built a settlement they called Lutetia, a name most historians believe derived from a 151 15 seconds Celtic word connected to marshland or mud, fitting for a place still surrounded by swampy banks. The Parisiii 241 24 seconds thrived modestly through fishing and by taxing merchants who needed to cross or travel along the river, collecting gold 321 32 seconds coins that still occasionally surface in archaeological digs along the Seine to this very day. Everything changed in 411 41 seconds BC when the Roman general Julius Caesar launched a sweeping military campaign to conquer the whole of Gaul and bring it permanently under Roman control. 531 53 seconds. Caesar's ambitions were enormous, and the various GIC tribes, the Parisiii among them, suddenly found themselves facing 12 minutes. 1 second, the most disciplined and effective fighting force the ancient world had ever produced. A charismatic GIC 92 minutes 9 seconds chieftain named Vercingetorix rose to lead a desperate unified rebellion against Rome, rallying tribes that had spent 182 minutes. 18 seconds generations fighting one another into a fragile but determined alliance. 242 minutes 24 seconds. As part of this resistance, he ordered the Parisiii to burn their own bridges and set fire to their own settlement. 322 minutes. 32 seconds. Denying Rome any useful foothold rather than allow it to fall intact into enemy hands. Despite this fierce, scorched 412 minutes 41 seconds earth resistance, the Roman commander Labienus crushed the Parisiii forces decisively at the Battle of Lutetia. 492 minutes 49 seconds. The settlement, what remained of it, fell completely under Roman control, marking the definitive end of 562 minutes. 56 seconds. Independent Celtic rule over this small river island and the beginning of nearly 5 centuries of Roman administration. 63 minutes 6 seconds. The defeat at Lutetia was part of a much larger catastrophe unfolding across Gaul as a whole. Vercingetorix himself was 153 minutes 15 seconds. Eventually besieged and forced to surrender to Caesar at the fortress of Alesia, later being paraded through 223 minutes. 22 seconds. Rome in chains as a war trophy before ultimately being executed. A humiliating 293 minutes 29 seconds end, befitting the final collapse of organized GIC resistance to Roman conquest. 363 minutes 36 seconds. Archaeological evidence suggests the original Parisiii settlement was likely never a true city in the modern sense. 443 minutes 44 seconds, but rather a loose collection of fishing huts, trading posts, and seasonal camps spread across the island and nearby riverbanks. 3. 543 minutes 54 seconds coins minted by the Parisiii themselves, featuring stylized horses and abstract human faces, have been recovered by 4. 34 minutes. 3 seconds archaeologists and now sit in museum collections, offering rare physical evidence of a culture that otherwise 4. 114 minutes. 11 seconds left behind almost no written historical record of its own. The Roman conquest, devastating as it was for Parisiii 4. 204 minutes 20 seconds independence, also brought unprecedented connectivity to the small settlement. 4. 274 minutes 27 seconds roads built by Roman engineers linked the island outpost to the wider imperial network stretching from Britain to North. 4. 354 minutes 35 seconds Africa, transforming what had been a modest local trading post into a node within one of the largest and most. 4. 434 minutes. 43 seconds sophisticated transportation and communication systems the ancient world had ever constructed. 4. 504 minutes 50 seconds, setting the stage for centuries of growth still to come. Even after the Roman conquest, traces of Celtic culture. 4. 594 minutes 59 seconds and religious practice persisted quietly beneath the surface of official Roman life within the city. Local deities. 5. 85 minutes 8 seconds continued to be worshipped alongside Roman gods, often blended together in syncretic forms, while place names. And 5. 165 minutes 16 seconds. Certain local customs retained subtle echoes of the original Parisiii presence. 5. 225 minutes 22 seconds, a reminder that conquest rarely erases a people's cultural memory entirely, even when their political independence has been thoroughly extinguished. 5. 335 minutes 33 seconds. What makes this earliest chapter of Parisian history particularly remarkable is just how little physical evidence. 5. 405 minutes 40 seconds actually survives compared to later eras. Much of what historians know about the original Parisiii comes from 5. 495 minutes 49 seconds second-hand Roman accounts written by the very people who conquered them, leaving modern researchers to carefully separate 5. 575 minutes 57 seconds genuine historical fact from the kind of self-serving propaganda that conquering powers have produced about defeated. 6. 66 minutes 6 seconds peoples throughout nearly every era of recorded human history. The very name Paris itself derived directly from 6. 156 minutes 15 seconds. These original Celtic inhabitants represents one of the longest continuously used place names in all of 6. 226 minutes 22 seconds. European history. An unbroken linguistic thread connecting the small fishing village of antiquity to the sprawling 6. 316 minutes 31 seconds global metropolis that exists on the exact same riverbanks today. More than 2,000 years after the Parisiii first chose 6. 406 minutes 40 seconds this particular bend in the Seine as their home. The Romans rebuilt the settlement almost entirely from scratch. This time 6. 496 minutes 49 seconds choosing the left bank of the Seine as their primary foundation, renaming the city Lutetia Parisium in honor of the 6. 586 minutes 58 seconds original Celtic inhabitants who had once called this stretch of river home. 7. 47 minutes 4 seconds Lutetia quickly took on the unmistakable shape of a proper Roman city. Engineers. 7. 107 minutes 10 seconds laid out a formal forum at its center, paved straight roads connecting every district with Roman precision. 7. 187 minutes 18 seconds constructed grand public bathos known today as the Therme de Luni and built a 7. 257 minutes 25 seconds massive amphitheater, the Aron de Lutz, capable of seating around 10,000. 7. 317 minutes 31 seconds spectators eager to watch gladiatorial combat unfold before them. In the third 7. 387 minutes 38 seconds century, Christianity arrived in the city, carried by a missionary bishop named Denis who began quietly 467 minutes. 46 seconds, preaching this new and controversial faith among the local population, drawing followers from both the Roman elite and ordinary residents alike. 577 minutes 57 seconds, because Rome had not yet officially recognized Christianity and in fact actively persecuted it during this 58 minutes 5 seconds period. Denis was eventually arrested and publicly beheaded on a hill that would later become known as Mart, 148 minutes 14 seconds, meaning literally the mountain of the martyr. A name still carried by the same Parisian neighborhood today. Saint-Denis 238 minutes 23 seconds became one of the most enduring legends in French religious history, with later medieval accounts claiming that after 308 minutes 30 seconds his execution, he miraculously picked up his own severed head and walked several kilometers while preaching a sermon 398 minutes 39 seconds before finally collapsing at the spot where the great Basilica of Saint-Denis would later be constructed. A site that would 478 minutes 47 seconds eventually become the traditional burial ground for nearly every French monarch for over 1,000 years. The Arène de 568 minutes 56 seconds Lutz Amphitheater served dual purposes, hosting both violent gladiatorial spectacles and theatrical performances. 59 minutes 5 seconds for the wider population. And remarkably, substantial portions of its original stone seating survived. 139 minutes 13 seconds underground for centuries, only to be rediscovered during 19th century construction projects, allowing modern 219 minutes 21 seconds Parisians to walk among ruins their distant Roman predecessors once filled with cheering crowds nearly 2,000 years. 309 minutes 30 seconds earlier. By the late 4th century, growing pressure from Germanic tribes along the Rhine frontier forced Roman 399 minutes 39 seconds authorities in Lutetia to fortify the central island more heavily, abandoning some of the more exposed left bank. 479 minutes 47 seconds districts that had flourished during the empire's earlier peaceful centuries. 539 minutes 53 seconds. This gradual retreat back toward the original defensible island foreshadowed the far more dramatic upheavals that 210 minutes 2 seconds would soon engulf the entire Western Roman world within just a few short generations. 1010 minutes 10 seconds. The slow transformation of Lutetia during these final Roman centuries also reflected broader economic shifts. 1810 minutes 18 seconds happening across the empire as a whole as long-distance trade routes grew increasingly unreliable and local. 2610 minutes 26 seconds self-sufficiency became more important for daily survival. 3110 minutes 31 seconds. Even so, the city's strategic river crossing ensured it never fully declined into total obscurity, continuing to 4010 minutes 40 seconds attract settlers, soldiers, and clergy, even as the grander structures of Roman 4610 minutes 46 seconds civic life slowly fell into disrepair around them. 5210 minutes 52 seconds. This gradual transition from a confident, expansive Roman city into a more cautious, defensively focused 11,011 minute settlement set an important pattern that would repeat throughout Parisian history again and again. A city that 11,0911 minutes 9 seconds consistently demonstrated remarkable adaptability, contracting and rebuilding itself. 1611 minutes 16 seconds repeatedly across the centuries, whenever external threats demanded it, rather than simply collapsing entirely. 2411 minutes 24 seconds, the way so many other ancient settlements ultimately did when faced with similar prolonged periods of instability and invasion. 11. 3,211 minutes 32 seconds. Roman Lutetia, despite its impressive architecture, remained a relatively modest provincial city compared to 11. 4,011 minutes 40 seconds. Grander centers like Leon or Trier, never housing more than a few thousand permanent residents at its peak. Still, 11. 4,911 minutes 49 seconds. Its strategic river position and growing religious significance ensured that even as the broader Roman Empire began to 11. 5,611 minutes 56 seconds weaken. This small settlement would continue attracting settlers, traders, and eventually rulers seeking to control 12. 412 minutes 4 seconds. Its valuable crossing point. In the year 360 AD, the Roman general Julian was 1,212 minutes, 12 seconds proclaimed emperor right here within the city walls by his own loyal troops. A significant honor for what had remained 2,012 minutes, 20 seconds. A relatively minor provincial settlement. 2,412 minutes 24 seconds. Around this same period, the city's name was officially shortened to simply Paris, a deliberate gesture meant to 3,112 minutes 31 seconds honor and win the lasting loyalty of the original Parisiii inhabitants whose descendants still lived throughout the 3,912 minutes 39 seconds region. By the 5th century, the once mighty Western Roman Empire had begun crumbling rapidly from within, leaving 4,812 minutes 48 seconds. Cities like Paris dangerously exposed to waves of invasion from various barbarian tribes, pushing steadily westward across the continent. 5,912 minutes 59 seconds. In 451 AD, the feared Hunnic warlord Attila led a massive invading army into 13,613 minutes 6 seconds Western Europe, spreading panic so severe that the residents of Paris began frantically preparing to abandon their 1,413 minutes 14 seconds city entirely rather than face his approaching horde. A devout young woman named Genevieve stood before the 2,213 minutes 22 seconds terrified population and urged them to stay, insisting that fervent prayer alone could protect the city from destruction. 3,113 minutes 31 seconds. Remarkably, Attila's army veered away at the last moment, turning instead toward the city of Orleans and Genevieve. 4,013 minutes 40 seconds was instantly transformed into a local hero, eventually becoming recognized as the official patron saint of Paris. 4,913 minutes 49 seconds. Toward the close of the 5th century, a Frankish military leader named Clovis I successfully conquered the surrounding 5,713 minutes 57 seconds region, bringing Paris under his expanding control through a combination of military force and shrewd political. 14,514 minutes 5 seconds salience with the local Gallo-Roman aristocracy and clergy. 1,014 minutes 10 seconds. In 508 AD, Clovis formally chose Paris as the official capital of his newly 1,714 minutes 17 seconds unified Frankish Kingdom. An event widely regarded by historians as the true founding moment of what would 2,514 minutes 25 seconds eventually become the nation of France itself, with Paris standing at its symbolic and political heart from that point forward. 3,514 minutes 35 seconds. Clovis's conversion to Catholic Christianity rather than the Arian form of Christianity practiced by many other. 4,214 minutes 42 seconds. Germanic tribes of the era proved to be a decision of enormous long-term consequence. 4,914 minutes 49 seconds. It secured him crucial support from the existing Gallo-Roman bishops and aristocracy who still held considerable local influence. 5,814 minutes 58 seconds. Allowing his Frankish kingdom to integrate far more smoothly with the populations he now ruled rather than. 615 minutes. 6 seconds, facing the kind of prolonged religious resentment that troubled many other barbarian successor states across the crumbling Roman world. 1615 minutes, 16 seconds. Genevieve herself lived to see Clovis's rise and reportedly maintained close personal influence within his court. 2515 minutes. 25 seconds, using her considerable reputation to encourage charitable works and the construction of churches throughout the growing city. 3415 minutes, 34 seconds. When she died around 512 AD, she was buried in a church that Clovis himself had commissioned, a site that would 4215 minutes. 42 seconds later be rebuilt and renamed in her honor, cementing her status as the spiritual guardian of Paris for the next millennium and beyond. 5315 minutes, 53 seconds. The Frankish Kingdom established by Clovis would not remain unified for long after his death, as Frankish custom 160116 minutes. 1 second dictated dividing inheritance among multiple sons, repeatedly fracturing the realm into competing smaller kingdoms throughout the following centuries. 1216 minutes, 12 seconds. Paris itself would change hands among various Frankish rulers many times during this turbulent period. Yet its 2016 minutes, 20 seconds symbolic importance as Clovis's original chosen capital ensured it always retained special prestige even during 2916 minutes. 29 seconds eras when actual political power resided elsewhere entirely. 3416 minutes, 34 seconds. The legend of Genevieve facing down a tiller has been retold and embellished countless times across the centuries. 4316 minutes. 43 seconds, often serving as a powerful symbol of faith and civic courage, standing firm against overwhelming external threat. 5116 minutes, 51 seconds. Whether her prayers truly diverted Attila's army, or whether more practical military and logistical factors actually explain his change of 17,017 minutes direction, remains a matter of historical debate. Yet the story itself became foundational to how Parisians would 17,0917 minutes, 9 seconds understand their own city's resilience for generations afterward. 1417 minutes, 14 seconds. Clovis's reign also marked a pivotal moment in the broader transformation of Western Europe as Roman administrative 2217 minutes. 22 seconds. Traditions gradually merged with Germanic legal customs to create entirely new hybrid systems of governance. 3117 minutes, 31 seconds. Paris, sitting at the symbolic crossroads of this transformation, would continue absorbing influences from both 3817 minutes, 38 seconds worlds for centuries, slowly developing the distinctive blend of Roman urban planning and Frankish political. 4617 minutes, 46 seconds. Authority that would define medieval French civilization as it matured. By choosing Paris specifically as his 5417 minutes, 54 seconds capital rather than any of the other available regional centers under his control, Clovis effectively determined 18,0218 minutes. 2 seconds the future political geography of an entire nation. A single decision whose consequences would echo through more 1018 minutes, 10 seconds than 15 centuries of subsequent French history, shaping everything from royal succession to revolutionary upheaval to 2018 minutes. 20 seconds the modern administrative structure of the French state that governs the country to this very day. Under later 2818 minutes, 28 seconds Carolingian rulers, Paris gradually lost much of its earlier political importance, slipping into economic 3518 minutes. 35 seconds decline as power shifted toward other regional centers and the city's defenses fell into noticeable disrepair. 18, 4,418 minutes 44 seconds. In 845, the notorious Viking leader Ragnar Lothbrok sailed up the Seine with a 18, 5,118 minutes 51 seconds fleet of roughly 120 ships, raiding and plundering Paris before extracting a 18, 5,818 minutes 58 seconds massive ransom of gold and silver known historically as danieled from the desperate French king in exchange for finally withdrawing his forces. 19 1,019 minutes 10 seconds. This humiliating capitulation only encouraged further Viking raids in the years that followed, forcing terrified 1919 minutes 19 seconds residents to repeatedly retreat to the relative safety of the original island settlement, Ile-Deceit, while hastily 2,819 minutes 28 seconds constructing wooden defensive fortifications around its perimeter. In 885, 3,519 minutes, 35 seconds. The Vikings returned once again, this time with an enormous army numbering around 30,000 warriors, laying siege to 4,419 minutes. 44 seconds. The city for nearly a full year without pause. This time, however, the city's defender, a determined nobleman named 5,319 minutes 53 seconds Odo, refused absolutely to surrender, organizing a stubborn and resourceful resistance that held against 20,220 minutes 2 seconds overwhelming odds. Odo's remarkable courage during this prolonged siege earned him deep and lasting loyalty. 1,120 minutes 11 seconds among the city's population. He was later elected King of France himself, effectively breaking the established 1920 minutes 19 second hereditary line of Carolingian succession and proving that battlefield leadership in defense of Paris could translate directly into national political power. 3,020 minutes 30 seconds. The repeated Viking raids permanently altered how the city understood its own geography and defense. Bridges 23,920 minutes 39 seconds connecting the island to both river banks were deliberately rebuilt low and heavily fortified, specifically designed. 24,720 minutes 47 seconds to block Viking long ships from sailing further upriver. A defensive innovation that effectively ended the era of 25,520 minutes 55 seconds devastating waterborne raids that had plagued the city for nearly half a century. This turbulent period also 21,421 minutes 4 seconds accelerated the gradual fragmentation of centralized Frankish authority into smaller, more locally defended 1,221 minutes 12 seconds territories. As regional lords like Odo gained increasing prestige and practical power simply by proving they could 2,121 minutes 21 seconds protect their own populations when the distant king could not. This shift would lay important groundwork for the feudal 3,021 minutes 30 seconds political structures that would come to dominate French society throughout the following centuries. 3,721 minutes 37 seconds. Viking raiders did not simply vanish from French history after their defeat at Paris. A separate branch of Norse 4,521 minutes 45 seconds settlers would later be granted their own territory along the Channel coast in 911, founding what became known as 5,421 minutes 54 seconds. Normandy, a region whose Viking-descended dukes would go on to play an enormous role in European history. 22,222 minutes 2 seconds. Then 2 centuries later when William of Normandy crossed the sea to conquer England itself. 1,022 minutes 10 seconds. The sustained trauma of repeated Viking incursions also left a lasting imprint on French religious and cultural life. 1,922 minutes 19 seconds. With chronicles from the period describing widespread fear so severe that a popular prayer of the era 2,722 minutes 27 seconds specifically begged for deliverance from the fury of the Northmen. A phrase recorded in church liturgies across the 3,622 minutes. 36 seconds region, and reflecting just how deeply these repeated assaults had embedded themselves into the collective consciousness of ordinary people living along the Seine. 4,622 minutes, 46 seconds recovery from these Viking depredations proved slow and uneven across different parts of the city, with certain riverside 5,422 minutes. 54 seconds districts taking generations to fully rebuild their population and economic activity. 23,0123 minutes, 1 second. Yet the very fact that Paris ultimately survived these repeated existential threats rather than being abandoned. 23,0923 minutes, 9 seconds centrally. As happened to many other contemporary settlements across Western Europe, speaks directly to the 1523 minutes. 15 seconds. Underlying strategic and symbolic value. Its strategic island location had already firmly established by this point in its long history. 2,623 minutes, 26 seconds. Odo's eventual election as king, breaking the old Carolean succession entirely, also marked an important early 3,523 minutes. 35-second step toward a political principle that would gradually become more central to French monarchy over subsequent 4,223 minutes, 42-second centuries. The idea that legitimate rule required demonstrated capability and popular support, not merely inherited. 5,123 minutes, 51 seconds. Bloodline alone. A tension between hereditary privilege and earned authority that would continue. 5,823 minutes, 58 seconds. Resurfacing throughout French history for the next 1,000 years. 24,0324 minutes, 3 seconds. Paris experienced a genuine and lasting renaissance under King Philip Augustus, known in French history as Philippe II. 1,324 minutes. 13 seconds, whose reign marked a decisive turning point toward real urban sophistication and centralized royal authority. 2,224 minutes, 22 seconds. He ordered the city's major streets paved with stone for the very first time in its history. A practical reform aimed. 2,924 minutes, 29 seconds. Directly at eliminating the thick, foul-smelling mud that had long made movement through the city genuinely unpleasant and unhealthy for ordinary residents. 4,024 minutes, 40 seconds. To better defend the growing city from outside threats, he commissioned a massive stone fortress along the riverbank, a structure that would. 4,924 minutes. 49 seconds. Eventually evolve over the following centuries into the Royal Palace and much later the world-famous Louvre Museum. 5,924 minutes, 59 seconds. A substantial new defensive wall, still remembered today as the Wall of Philip Augustus, was constructed completely. 25,0725 minutes, 7 seconds. Encircling Paris, clearly defining its boundaries and offering genuine protection against the kind of 1,425 minutes, 14 seconds. Devastating sieges the city had endured in previous centuries. 1,925 minutes, 19 seconds. During this very same period, construction began on the magnificent Gothic Cathedral of Notre-Dame de Paris, and 2,725 minutes. 27 seconds. Architectural and religious undertaking that would symbolize both the spiritual authority of the Catholic Church and the 3,525 minutes. 35 seconds. Growing wealth and ambition of the city itself for centuries to come. 4,025 minutes, 40 seconds. Philip Augustus also established the world's first permanent covered marketplace at El Zal, organizing the 4,825 minutes. 48 seconds. Previously chaotic street trade into proper covered stalls and laying foundations for a commercial hub. That 5,525 minutes. 55 seconds would serve as the beating heart of Parisian food trade for the next 7 centuries. 26:0226 minutes, 2 seconds. He further chartered the University of Paris, drawing scholars and students from across Europe and helping transform 26:0926 minutes. 9 seconds. A city into one of the continent's foremost centers of theological and philosophical learning, rivaling even 26:1726 minutes, 17 seconds. The great universities of Bologna and Oxford. 26:2226 minutes, 22 seconds. The NRAAM cathedral itself would take nearly 2 centuries to fully complete, with construction continuing steadily. 26:3026 minutes. 30 seconds across the reigns of multiple successive kings. 26:3426 minutes, 34 seconds. Its soaring flying buttresses and intricate stained glass rose windows represented genuine engineering. 26:4226 minutes, 42 seconds. Breakthroughs for their era, pushing Gothic architecture to heights that had simply never been attempted anywhere. 26:4926 minutes, 49 seconds. Else in medieval Europe before that point. 26:5326 minutes, 53 seconds. Philip Augustus also reorganized the city's governance structure, granting Paris its own formal municipal 27:0027 minutius administration and appointing officials specifically responsible for maintaining order, regulating trade guilds, and 27:0827 minutes. 8 seconds. Overseeing the bustling commercial activity that increasingly defined daily life within the growing capital. Laying 27:1627 minutes, 16 seconds. Institutional foundations that would continue evolving for centuries as the city's population and complexity steadily expanded. 27:2627 minutes, 26 seconds. By the time of his death in 1223, Philip Augustus had transformed Paris from a relatively modest medieval town. 27:3527 minutes. 35 seconds. Cîteaux, one of the largest and most influential cities in all of Western Europe, with a population estimated to 27,4327 minutes, 43 seconds. Shave reached as high as 50,000 residents. An extraordinary achievement that placed Paris firmly on a trajectory. 27:5127 minutes, 51 seconds toward becoming the dominant cultural and political capital it would remain for centuries to come. His reign, also 28:0028 minutius, coincided with growing royal centralization across France more broadly as Philip Augustus successfully 28:0828 minutes. 8 seconds. Reclaimed vast territories previously controlled by the English crown through the Plantagenet dynasty, dramatically 28:1628 minutes. 16 seconds. Expanding direct royal authority and ensuring that Paris as the undisputed seat of this strengthened monarchy would 28:2428 minutes, 24 seconds. Benefit enormously from the increased wealth, prestige, age, and administrative importance that came with ruling over a 28:3228 minutes, 32 seconds. Far larger and more unified kingdom than France had known in generations. 28:3928 minutes, 39 seconds. The physical legacy of Philip Augustus remains visible throughout the modern city even today, with sections of his 28:4628 minutes. 46 seconds. Original defensive wall still occasionally surfacing during construction projects in neighborhoods that now sit well within the heart of 28:5528 minutes, 55 seconds. Central Paris, a tangible reminder of just how dramatically the city's boundaries have continued expanding. 29:0229 minutes. 2 seconds. Southward across the 8 centuries that have passed since his transformative reign first reshaped the medieval capital. 29 1229 minutes, 12 seconds. NRAAM Cathedral, begun under his patronage, would go on to witness nearly every major moment in subsequent French 29 2029 minutes, 20 seconds history within its walls. From royal coronations to revolutionary desecration, 29 2629 minutes, 26 seconds to Napoleon's own imperial coronation centuries later, making it perhaps the 29 3329 minutes. 33 second single most continuously significant building in the entire history of Paris. 29 3929 minutes, 39 seconds. A living monument connecting the medieval ambitions of Philip Augustus directly to the modern city. That's still 29 4729 minutes. 47 seconds gathers around its restored spires today. 29 5129 minutes, 51 seconds. By the 14th century, Paris had grown into the largest city in all of Europe, boasting a population exceeding 200,000 30,030 minutest residents. Yet it was about to face one of the most catastrophic periods in its entire long history. 30,0930 minutes, 9 seconds. In 1348, the devastating Black Death plague struck the city with horrifying 30,1630 minutes, 16 seconds force, ultimately killing close to half of its entire population within a matter of months, leaving streets en masse. 30,2530 minutes. 25 seconds. Burial pits overflowing with the dead faster than anyone could properly bury them. At nearly the same moment, the 33,430 minutes, 34 seconds. Brutal H-100 Red Years' War between France and England was already raging fiercely across the broader region, draining 34,230 minutes. 42 seconds. Resources and stability from a kingdom already reeling from plague and economic hardship. 34,930 minutes, 49 seconds. In 1420, under the terms of the Treaty of Tours, English forces and their Burgundian 35,630 minutes, 56 seconds seized full control of Paris itself, occupying the city and installing administration loyal to the 31,0431 minutes, 4 seconds. English crown rather than the traditional French monarchy. In 1429, 1131 minutes, 11 seconds. Legendary heroine Joan of Arc led a determined French army in an attempt to 1831 minutes, 18 seconds. Retake the occupied city, but she was wounded by a crossbow bolt to the thigh during the assault, and the attack ultimately failed. 2,931 minutes, 29 seconds. It would not be until 1436 that French forces under King Charles VIII finally succeeded in liberating Paris completely from English control. 4,231 minutes, 42 seconds. The combination of plague and prolonged warfare left Paris a fundamentally transformed city by the mid-15th century. 5,231 minutes, 52 seconds. Entire neighborhoods stood abandoned. 5,531 minutes, 55 seconds. Agricultural land surrounding the capital fell out of cultivation for lack of available labor, and the population 32,0332 minutes. 3 seconds would not fully recover to its pre-plague numbers for well over a century. A sobering reminder of just how 1232 minutes, 12 seconds catastrophic this twin disaster had truly been for the largest city in Europe. 1832 minutes, 18 seconds. Joan of Arc's failed assault on Paris remains one of the more curious episodes of her remarkable career since her later 2732 minutes. 27 seconds. Victories at Orleans had seemed almost miraculous by comparison. 3,332 minutes, 33 seconds. Some historians argue the Paris campaign suffered from insufficient royal support as King Charles VIII reportedly 4,232 minutes. 42 seconds hesitated to fully commit his forces, perhaps wary of the political risks involved in directly challenging 5,032 minutes. 50 seconds England's continued grip on the symbolically vital capital city. 5,632 minutes, 56 seconds Joan of Arc's later capture, trial and execution in 1431 occurred without Charles II intervening. 533 minutes, 5 seconds to save her. A troubling historical detail that has fueled centuries of speculation regarding royal ingratitude. 1,633 minutes, 16 seconds Paris itself would not formally celebrate her as a national heroine until many centuries later when she was 2,333 minutes, 23 seconds finally canonized as a saint in 1920. Transforming a once controversial 3,033 minutes, 30 seconds peasant warrior into one of the most beloved figures in all of French national memory. 3,833 minutes, 38 seconds The English occupation of Paris during these decades also left a complicated cultural legacy as the young King Henry 4,733 minutes. 47 seconds V. 6th of England was actually crowned King of France within Nram Cathedral itself in 1431. 5,533 minutes, 55 seconds A ceremony intended to legitimize English rule, but one that ultimately failed to win the lasting loyalty of a 3,334 minutes. 3 seconds population that increasingly identified itself as French rather than as subjects of a distant foreign crown across the 1,034 minutes, 10-second channel. The eventual liberation of Paris in 1436 also marked a broader turning point in 1,834 minutes, 18 seconds Hundred Years' War as a whole, with French momentum building steadily in the years that followed. Eventually 2,534 minutes, 25 seconds culminating in the final expulsion of English forces from nearly all French territory by 1453, 3,334 minutes, 33 seconds save for the single port city of Killala. Bringing to a close more than a century of intermittent but devastating conflict. 4,134 minutes, 41 seconds that had repeatedly drawn Paris itself into its destructive orbit. 4,634 minutes, 46 seconds The cumulative impact of plague, war, and occupation across this turbulent 14th and 15th century period left Paris 5,534 minutes. 55 seconds a fundamentally more cautious and fortified city than it had been before, with later monarchs investing heavily in 3,335 minutes. 3 seconds stronger defenses and more centralized control over the capital, specifically to prevent any repetition of the 1,135 minutes. 11 seconds prolonged foreign occupation that had so deeply humiliated the French crown. During these difficult decades of sustained crisis and recovery. 2,135 minutes, 21 seconds During the 16th century, fresh intellectual ideas and the elegant architectural style of the Italian 2,835 minutes, 28 seconds Renaissance flowed steadily into Paris, transforming the old medieval fortress of the Louvre from a purely defensive 3,735 minutes, 37-second structure into an increasingly refined and ornate royal residence. 4,235 minutes, 42 seconds Yet this same century also tore the city apart through devastating religious conflict as tensions between the 5,035 minutes. 50 seconds Catholic majority and the growing Protestant minority known as the Huguenots escalated into open and frequently 5,835 minutes. 58 seconds violent confrontation across French society as a whole. On the night of August 23 to 24, 1572, 0836 minutes, 8 seconds zone of the most horrifying events in the city's history unfolded, remembered today as the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre. 36, 1736 minutes, 17 seconds. Catholic mobs, encouraged by elements of the royal government itself, hunted down and killed an estimated 3,036 to 2,536 minutes. 25 seconds. Protestants throughout the streets of Paris, leaving the waters of the Seine visibly stained with blood. Years later, 36, 3,436 minutes, 34 seconds. The city refused to accept Henry IVTH as its rightful king simply because he was Protestant, forcing a prolonged and 36, 4,336 minutes. 43 seconds. Brutal siege that left residents so desperately starved they were reduced to eating dogs, cats, and rats just to survive the ordeal. 36, 5,436 minutes, 54 seconds. Finally, in 1593, Henry IVTH agreed to formally convert to Catholicism, famously declaring that 37, 0237 minutes, 2 seconds. Paris was well worth a mass. This pragmatic political compromise effectively ended the religious wars, and 37, 1,137 minutes, 11 seconds finally restored a fragile but genuine peace to the long-suffering city. 37, 1,837 minutes, 18 seconds. The Renaissance transformation of Paris extended well beyond the Louvre itself. 37, 2,437 minutes, 24 seconds. Wealthy merchants and nobles commissioned elegant private mansions throughout the city. While King Francis 37, 3,137 minutes, 31 seconds. I actively recruited Italian artists, including the aging Leonardo da Vinci, who spent his final years in France. 37, 4,037 minutes. 40 seconds. Under royal patronage, bringing with him works that would eventually form the core of the Louvre's future art collection. 37, 4,837 minutes, 48 seconds. The religious violence of this century left deep and lasting scars on the city's social fabric. Many Eugenio 37, 5,637 minutes, 56 seconds. Families who survived the massacre permanently fled Paris for safer regions or foreign countries entirely, taking 38, 0438 minutes. 4 seconds. Valuable skilled trades and considerable capital with them. A quiet economic loss that some historians argue weakened. 38, 1,338 minutes. 13 seconds. French commercial competitiveness against rising Protestant powers like England and the Dutch Republic for generations afterward. 38, 2,338 minutes, 23 seconds. Henry IVTH's reign following the religious wars also brought genuine practical benefits to the long-suffering. 38, 3,138 minutes, 31 seconds. Capital. He completed construction of the Pont Neuf, the city's first bridge built without houses crowding its. 38, 3,938 minutes, 39 seconds. Surface, finally offering Parisians an unobstructed view of the Seine. And he commissioned the elegant Place Royale. 38, 4,838 minutes, 48 seconds, known today as Pleur, establishing a new architectural standard of symmetrical, harmonious. 38, 5,638 minutes. 56 seconds. Urban design that would influence Parisian city planning for centuries to follow. 39, 0239 minutes, 2 seconds. The Renaissance period also saw the rise of an increasingly powerful and literate Parisian merchant class, whose growing. 39, 1,039 minutes. 10 seconds. Wealth funded new printing houses that helped spread both classical learning and religious controversy throughout the. 39, 1,839 minutes, 18 seconds. City at unprecedented speed, transforming Paris into a major center of the European printing revolution. And 39, 2,639 minutes, 26 seconds. Inadvertently fueling the very religious debates that would soon erupt into such devastating sectarian violence. The 39, 3,539 minutes, 35 seconds. Eventual peace secured by Henry IVTH under the Edict of Nantes in 1598 granted French Protestants substantial religious. 39, 4,439 minutes. 44 seconds freedoms and legal protections. A remarkably progressive compromise for its era that allowed Paris and the 5,139 minutes, 51 seconds broader kingdom to enjoy several decades of relative religious tolerance and stability. Though this fragile 5,839 minutes, 58 seconds arrangement would later be revoked nearly a century afterward, triggering renewed waves of Protestant immigration from French territory entirely. 1,040 minutes, 10 seconds. The legacy of the 16th century religious wars also fundamentally shaped how subsequent French governments approached 1,740 minutes. 17 seconds. The relationship between religious authority and state power, establishing precedents for both tolerance and 2,540 minutes. 25 seconds. Persecution that would continue influencing French political and religious life for centuries afterward, 3,240 minutes. 32 seconds. Right up through the eventual formal separation of church and state. That would not be fully achieved until the 3,940 minutes, 39 seconds. Early 20th century, more than 300 years after Henry IV first secured this 4,540 minutes, 45 seconds fragile peace. While still a young child, King Louis XIV, who would later become known as the Sun King, 5,340 minutes. 53 seconds. Experienced a terrifying popular uprising of Parisian nobles and commoners known as the Fronde. An event 41,0141 minutes, 1 second that forced the royal family to flee the capital under cover of darkness in fear for their lives. This traumatic 41,0941 minutes, 9 seconds childhood experience left Louis XIV with a deep and lasting resentment toward Paris itself, which he came to 1,741 minutes, 17 seconds view as a dirty, chaotic and politically dangerous city that posed a genuine ongoing threat to royal 2,441 minutes, 24 seconds authority and personal safety. In 1682, he made the dramatic decision to 3,141 minutes, 31 seconds relocate his entire royal court and government administration away from Paris altogether, establishing a 3,941 minutes. 39 seconds magnificent new seat of power at the Palace of Versailles, situated roughly 20 km outside the city itself. 4,841 minutes, 48 seconds. Despite his personal absence, Louis XIV still ordered significant modernization projects within Paris. Old 5,641 minutes, 56 seconds. Narrow streets were widened. Sections of the aging medieval city wall were demolished and replaced with broad 42,0342 minutes. 3 second streetlined boulevards designed for both beauty and improved circulation throughout the growing metropolis. 1,142 minutes, 11 seconds. Paris also became the very first city in Europe to install a comprehensive public street lighting system, using more than 1,942 minutes. 19 seconds. 3,000 oil lamps to illuminate its thoroughfares at night, dramatically reducing nighttime crime. It was during 2,842 minutes, 28 seconds this remarkable period that the city earned its enduring nickname, the City of Light. 3,542 minutes, 35 seconds. Despite his personal aversion to actually living in Paris, Louis XIV understood perfectly well that the city 4,342 minutes. 43 seconds remained the economic and cultural engine of his entire kingdom. And he continued funding ambitious infrastructure and beautification. 5,242 minutes, 52 seconds projects throughout his lengthy 72-year reign, one of the longest in recorded European history. 43,043 minutes. The Hôtel des Invalides, built to house wounded war veterans, and the elegant Place Vendôme both date from this prosperous, yet politically cautious era. 43 1243 minutes, 12 seconds. The royal absence from Paris also had unintended long-term political consequences. 43 1843 minutes, 18 seconds. With the monarchy physically removed and increasingly disconnected from daily life in the capital, ordinary Parisians developed an independent civic identity. 43 2943 minutes, 29 seconds. List directly tied to royal presence. A subtle cultural shift that would later prove enormously significant when 43 3743 minutes, 37 seconds. Revolutionary sentiment began building momentum less than a century afterward. 43 4343 minutes, 43 seconds. Even the symbolic act of relocating the court to Versailles carried unmistakable political messaging since Louis XIV. 43 5243 minutes, 52 seconds. Deliberately surrounded himself with the highest French nobility there, requiring their constant attendance, and 44 0044 minutus, effectively neutralizing any independent power base they might have otherwise built within their own distant 44 0644 minutes. 6 seconds. Provincial territories. A brilliant, if quietly ruthless, strategy for consolidating absolute royal authority. 44 1544 minutes, 15 seconds. Over an aristocracy that had once seriously threatened the crown itself. 44 2044 minutes, 20 seconds. The street lighting initiative in Paris quickly became a model studied and copied by other major European capitals. 44 2844 minutes, 28 seconds. Eager to replicate its success in reducing crime and extending safe public activity into evening hours. 44 3744 minutes, 37 seconds. Visitors from London, Vienna, and beyond traveled specifically to observe this innovation firsthand, cementing the 44 4544 minutes, 45 seconds. City's growing reputation as a center not just of royal grandeur, but of practical, forward-thinking municipal governance as well. 44 5544 minutes, 55 seconds. Versailles itself, despite drawing the court physically away from Paris, never managed to fully replace the capital's 45 0245 minutes, 2 seconds. Cultural gravity. Wealthy Parisians continued building elegant private mansions throughout the city. Theaters. 45 0945 minutes, 9 seconds. And salons flourished independently of royal patronage, and the intellectual class increasingly congregated within 45 1745 minutes, 17 seconds. Paris, rather than the more rigidly formal and ceremonially controlled atmosphere of the distant royal palace, ensuring the capital's cultural. 45 2645 minutes, 26 seconds. Relevance remained undiminished despite its political marginalization. 45 3245 minutes, 32 seconds. This peculiar split between political and cultural capital, royal government residing at Versailles, while artistic. 45 3945 minutes, 39 seconds. And intellectual life continued flourishing independently within Paris itself, created a uniquely dynamic. 45 4745 minutes, 47 seconds. Tension that would only intensify as the 18th century progressed, ultimately setting the stage for a growing. 45 5445 minutes, 54 seconds. Population of increasingly educated and politically aware Parisians who would soon begin questioning why their city. 46 0246 minutes, 2 seconds. A genuine heart of the nation remained so deliberately excluded from direct royal governance. 46 1046 minutes, 10 seconds. This unresolved tension between the political marginalization of Paris and its undeniable cultural and economic. 46 1746 minutes, 17 seconds. Centrality would continue simmering beneath the surface of French society for the remainder of the 18th century. 46 2546 minutes, 25 seconds, quietly accumulating resentment among an increasingly self-aware urban population that would within just a few decades 46, 3,346 minutes. 33 seconds finally translate this long-standing grievance into one of the most consequential popular uprisings in the entire history of the modern world. 46, 4,446 minutes, 44 seconds. Even though the royal court remained at Versailles, Paris had firmly established itself as the true intellectual heart of 46, 5,246 minutes, 52 seconds. Europe. The vibrant culture of the Parisian café. Places like the famous Café Proup became gathering points for 47,047 minutest influential thinkers such as Voltaire and Rousseau, who debated human rights and openly questioned the legitimacy of 47,0947 minutes, 9 seconds absolute monarchy. Yet behind this glittering intellectual reputation, the majority of ordinary Parisians lived in 1,747 minutes, 17 seconds. Genuine and grinding poverty, crowded into narrow, poorly ventilated streets and constantly facing the very real 2,647 minutes, 26 seconds threat of food shortages that could turn deadly without warning. By 1789, a 3,347 minutes, 33 seconds serious national financial crisis combined with sharply rising bread prices to push popular anger toward an 4,147 minutes. 41 seconds undeniable breaking point as ordinary families found themselves unable to afford even the most basic staples of daily survival. 47, 5,147 minutes 51 seconds. On July 14, 1789, tens of thousands of armed Parisians stormed the Bastille Fortress, a powerful 48,048 minuta symbol of royal absolutism, primarily seeking to seize the gunpowder stored within its walls for their growing arsenal of weapons. 48 1,048 minutes 10 seconds. The prison's commanding officer was beheaded, his head paraded through the streets on a pike for all to see. And Act 48 1,848 minutes 18 seconds. Soft, brutal, symbolic violence that marked the unmistakable official beginning of the French Revolution itself. 48 2,648 minutes, 26 seconds. The storming of the Bastille, while militarily modest in scale, since the fortress held only 7 prisoners at 48 3,448 minutes, 34 seconds. The time carried enormous symbolic weight as the moment ordinary Parisians proved they could successfully challenge 48 4,148 minutes. 41 seconds and defeat royal military authority through sheer collective force of numbers. 48 4,848 minutes, 48 seconds. News of the fall of the Bastille spread rapidly across France and throughout Europe, inspiring both fierce admiration. 48 5,648 minutes. 56 seconds. Among reformers and genuine terror among reigning monarchies who suddenly recognized that their own thrones might 49,449 minutes, 4 seconds no longer be as secure as they had long assumed. 49,0849 minutes, 8 seconds. Within weeks of the Bastille's fall, the National Assembly issued the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. 49, 1,649 minutes. 16 seconds. A sweeping document directly influenced by Enlightenment philosophy and the recent American Revolution, formerly 49 2,449 minutes, 24 seconds. Proclaiming principles of liberty, equality, and popular sovereignty that would echo through political movements. 49 3,149 minutes, 31 seconds. Across the entire world for centuries to come. 49 3,549 minutes, 35 seconds. Parisian women played a particularly decisive role during these early revolutionary months as well. In October, 49 4,349 minutes, 43 seconds. 1789, thousands of market women marched all the way to Versailles itself, demanding 49 5,049 minutes. 50-second spread and ultimately forcing the royal family to relocate back to Paris under close popular supervision. A dramatic 5,949 minutes, 59 seconds reversal of the very same royal abandonment that had begun more than a century earlier under Louis XIV. 50,0850 minutes, 8 seconds. The intellectual firmament of Enlightenment Paris extended well beyond philosophy into the sciences as well. 1,550 minutes. 15 seconds with institutions like the Royal Academy of Sciences fostering groundbreaking work.